Hi, Adam from the Brisbane channel, bringing you your weekly update on everything happening across Greater Brisbane. This week, everything from psychedelic therapies to police blunders, new housing figures to some cheeky plans for our region. Also, your chance to win a camping double pass for the Malini Music Festival in November, with funds going to support services for people experiencing homelessness locally. I also have 10 double passes to the preview screening of what looks to be a hilarious movie starring Keanu Reeves, Seth Rogen and Aziz Ansari to give away. Let's do this. The first thing I have to bring up is an error that was made in the announcement of a drop in Queensland victims of crime. In last week's update, we passed on the figure of 10.8% as the amount per capita that crime victim numbers dropped from January to September compared with the same time in the previous year. Well, this week they had to backtrack after it was discovered the figure was incorrect. The actual reduction was 6.5%. The Queensland Police Commissioner has apologised for the error, saying it occurred as a result of human error. There was an incorrect coding process applied to extract the data. Consultancy group Cotality has released the latest housing figures, and I won't spend too much time on this as it's more of the same for Brisbane. Dwelling values have risen by 8.8% over the last year, an increase second only to Darwin. Over the last quarter to September, the increase was 3.5%, behind Darwin and Perth. The disparity of change between the lower, middle and higher property values has reduced over time, but price increases are still skewed towards the lower priced end of the market. As for rentals, in September prices had risen by 5.6% on average over the past 12 months. Back around May, we talked about possible plans to develop the site of the former Visy glass factory and surrounds on the river in South Brisbane into a parklands area that many dubbed South Bank 2.0. Viewers of the Brisbane channel have been asking for an update on this project, and today I'm here to deliver. But it's probably not what people have been expecting. This week it's been announced that the 7.1 hectare state-owned site will be developed into a mixed-use precinct with more than 4,000 homes along with entertainment spaces, riverfront promenades and event lawns. The state government will be partnering with private developers and Brisbane City Council to deliver the precinct. The announcement comes as extension to a temporary local planning instrument has also been approved, which allows buildings to be constructed up to the maximum flight path cap of 247 metres, but also removes any requirement for affordable housing. The Kurilpa Sustainable Growth Precinct plan is being spruiked by Brisbane City Council as an anti-sprawl plan that capitalises on the strong transport links and established amenities in the area. They say that to date proposals have been lodged for 5,075 new dwellings across 11 projects, but this includes apartments, student accommodation and hotel rooms. Just this week, a complex that includes a 50-storey tower along with two others was approved by Council. This is one we mentioned in an update video a while back when the development application was first submitted. It will be the tallest building outside the CBD and the 7th tallest building in Brisbane. With all of this planned development, local residents have expressed concern that the area lacks the infrastructure to handle the massively increased population that will result from the increased number of homes, pointing to limitations in local schools, with West End State School already reaching capacity even after recent expansion. Development of the Visy site is expected to begin from March of 2027. There's no doubt that the Kurilpa area around South Brisbane will look quite different in a few years to how it looks today. If you'd like your home to look different and better, then you may want to take advantage of the 10% discount being offered by one of this video's sponsors, YB Painting Services. I've seen their work and their professionalism and meticulous attention to detail is impressive. With fixed pricing and a 5-year warranty on all their work, you can be sure there'll be no unpleasant surprises. Claim your 10% discount by scanning this QR code or the link in the video description. One development that I thought was worth including in this update just down the road from South Brisbane in the Woolloongabba Priority Development Area is 2 new 24-storey residential towers and restoration of the heritage-listed Broadway Hotel, built in 1889. After fires in 2010 and 2018, the building has been left without a roof and structurally fragile. The redevelopment proposes a full conservation of the building, including reinstatement of the original windows, interior joinery, and staircases. It will reopen as a public bar, restaurant, and function venue. The towers will house 282 dwellings, and on level 7 there'll be a recreation deck with a pool, spa, gym, games room, cinema and private dining rooms, as well as a rooftop terrace with wellness areas and outdoor dining. With the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games originally intended to be a way that Southeast Queensland councils could leverage the event to secure funding for infrastructure projects, such as better roads and public transport, advocacy group Better Transport Queensland has expressed concern about how Brisbane and the wider SEQ public transport network will prepare for the Olympics. They've put out a release outlining 4 key recommendations for Brent Nicholberg, the Queensland Minister for Transport and Main Roads. They propose a new Queensland Public Transport Authority be set up to bring Queensland Rail, Brisbane City Council's Transport and TransLink together into a single organisation. They also call for more high-frequency buses and trains, as well as TransLink fares for the air train with more services for the line. They say that while these measures do come at a cost, spending to increase services would be far less than building new train lines and busways. If you get anything from this update video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, as that helps build the channel. You can also say thanks by buying me a coffee or two, or support the channel and get access to extra content by hitting the join button and becoming a member. Thanks to these members for their continued support. We've been waiting for a location in Victoria Park for the Olympic Stadium to be decided, and this week is the first week we've seen some actual action. They've started borehole drilling to take samples for analysis that will be used to inform location, design and delivery of the Brisbane Stadium and the National Aquatic Centre. Surface level site investigations, including topographical, flora and fauna and cultural heritage surveys, have already been completed, and the next stage that began this week will involve borehole drilling that we've already mentioned, but also contamination investigations, ecological assessments and utility mapping. Looks like it might be time for me to get out and do some before footage for a special Olympics edition of the Brisbane Channel's Then and Now series. While we're on Olympics-related updates, you may have heard about the proposal to change the branding of Southeast Queensland to simply Brisbane, or at least the Brisbane City region. If you haven't, then you should probably watch this video later. Hopefully there's something showing up there and I'm not just pointing to nothing. Well, Logan's Mayor John Raven has put out a tongue-in-cheek proposal that we should instead rename Southeast Queensland to Logan. He says, when you name something, you name it after the middle, you don't name it after the edges. But he takes things further in his map, suggesting Brisbane become Logan Economic Zone, the Gold Coast would be Logan Shores, the Redlands would be Bayside Logan, Ipswich becomes West Logan, and the Scenic Rim changes to Logan's Lookout. Raven says, more people move from Brisbane to Logan than any other city. They've left for a reason, and I don't think they're keen on Brisbane following them there. I've got to say I laughed at that a bit. Moving on. Brisbane will become the second city in Australia to offer treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder and treatment-resistant depression using psychedelic treatments. Psilocybin, which is derived from magic mushrooms, is used for treatment-resistant depression, while people with PTSD can be treated using MDMA. The treatment involves a combination of controlled dosages of the drugs being given in a session along with psychotherapy. The treatment was first approved in Australia in July of 2023, but has been out of reach for most candidates due to the excessive cost. The out-of-pocket cost to patients can be as high as $30,000, but private health fund Medibank, in partnership with psychedelic care delivery company Emeria, started offering fully rebated psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD and TRD patients in Perth this year, and they're looking at expanding to Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne, with Brisbane first in line. While it's still an emerging therapy, research to date suggests that psychedelics can be highly effective in treating cases that have been resistant to traditional treatments. Current drug and talk therapies for depression and anxiety achieve remission in only 30 to 35% of cases. A trial using psilocybin-assisted therapy to treat patients who had failed to respond to traditional treatments achieved substantially reduced symptoms in over 65% of those treatment-resistant patients. Another recent study testing MDMA-assisted therapy on a cohort that had been suffering with PTSD for an average of 14 years found that 88% of patients saw clinically significant reductions in symptoms. A private hospital in Windsor on Brisbane's north side will be delivering the therapies. If you're looking for support with anxiety, depression, stress, ADHD, or relationship challenges, the other sponsor of this video, Excel Psychology, may be what you're looking for. They're a warm, inclusive psychology practice based in Spring Hill, about 500 metres from Central Station. With a diverse team of clinical and registered psychologists, they'll help match you with the right psychologists for your needs, often with short wait times. They offer Medicare rebates with a mental health treatment plan and also support work cover and NDIS participants. I featured members of the Excel Psychology team in a recent video on handling stress, and you can check that out here. If you're not using ad blockers, there should be something showing up there. That's treatment for humans, but this week 2 new wildlife hospitals were announced, one in the Redlands and another in Moreton Bay. An investment of $12 million will help RSPCA establish a new wildlife hospital at Redlands to treat injured wildlife as well as endangered and threatened species. The new hospital has also received $5 million from the Australian Government's Saving Koalas Fund and $3 million from sponsors. The Wildlife Hospital at Darbee in Moreton Bay will fill a gap in the area's wildlife network that meant injured wildlife needing emergency care had to be driven 2 hours either to Brisbane or the Sunshine Coast for treatment. Back to Brisbane, where residents are invited to share their thoughts on a proposed upgrade to Brisbane's third worst intersection. The crossing of Archerfield Road, Azalea Street and Pine Road in Inala sees some 22,000 cars pass through each day. The intersection is slated to get traffic lights, separate turning lanes and pedestrian crossings. There will be 2 information sessions for locals at these times. All community feedback will be considered, with the final design plan to be released by 2026. Okay, it's time for some quick bites before we get to the raffle and movie ticket giveaway. The state government has put out a release saying that calculation of cost blowouts under Labor for the Cross River Rail, originally costed at $5.4 billion, has been completed. They've given the figure of $19.041 billion. In an update a few weeks ago, we shared the proposal for Redlands City Council to regulate parking at Cleveland Central. Well, it went to Council and was voted down 6-5. Key objections included that council involvement on private land would set a concerning precedent. In Moreton Bay, Council has voted unanimously to support renaming of the access point to Wurrum Beach on 5th Avenue to honour Charlize Zmuda, a local surf lifesaver who tragically lost her life in a shark attack off the beach last February. After public consultation, which is now open, it will be renamed Charlize's Place. Also in Moreton Bay, land has been secured for a new TAFE Centre of Excellence at Moreton Bay Central, next to the future Moreton Bay Indoor Sports Centre in Petrie. The campus, which will feature an advanced manufacturing hub, will see construction begin in 2026. I wasn't originally planning to do a My 2 Cents segment in this video, but there was something I couldn't get out of my head. And then as I was editing the video, when I was procrastinating and looking at other articles, I saw a town planning academic saying exactly the same thing that I'd been thinking. So I figured that I would actually put this in the video. And it's this. With the Kurilpa plan, the Kurilpa Sustainable Growth Precinct of Brisbane City Council, and now the state government with their plans to develop the Visi site with, 4,000 new homes, or well, that's a possibility for the area. They're putting all of these new homes into an area that it doesn't make a lot of sense to build there. I mean, yes, there is great transport connectability there. There is, it's close to the city centre. Yes, there's some amenities, but there's not schools for all of these new people. There's not other things that are necessary, but the big thing, the thing that I was thinking about is the flooding. It's right beside the river, and if you look on Brisbane City Council's flood maps, you can see that whole area is blue. The whole area of South Brisbane pretty much is at high risk of flooding. So you're planning to put a whole bunch of people into an area is going to flood. It's inevitable. It floods. It has flooded there in the past. It will flood there in the future. And even though I know there are efforts going into making more flood resilient building designs, they're shifting generators to the higher levels of the buildings rather than having them down in the car parks. They're putting in things in place that make them more flood resilient. But the fact of the matter is that when floods come, you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are just trapped in their buildings, and you know it's going to happen. And it just seems to me, sorry to be blunt, but it just seems dumb. It seems that the only motivation I can think of to put all of these massive developments in this particular part of Brisbane is the money. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever to not focus on developing areas that are not going to flood. We know the areas that are going to flood. We know the areas that are not. And it's not that the entire city is built on a floodplain. There are higher areas where you're not going to have those issues. I just can't see the sense in focusing all of these resources into developing areas that are going to flood, and you know it. So yeah, it just seems dumb. Sorry to say it, but yeah. Anyway, let's get to the raffle and movie ticket giveaway. Okay, let's get to the raffle to win a double camping pass to the Malini Music Festival from the 7th to 9th of November. It's being run by Nourish Street and Northwest Community Group, who provide support for locals experiencing homelessness, and funds will directly support meals for outreach runs, emergency food and hygiene packs, sleeping bags, mats and tents, and fuel costs for outreach runs. It's a great way to support people doing good work, while also having the chance to win a prize valued at $530. I've put a link in the video description. Now the movie ticket giveaway. In good fortune, a well-meaning but rather inept angel named Gabriel, played by Keanu Reeves, meddles in the lives of a struggling gig worker and a wealthy venture capitalist. It hits cinemas on October 30, but I have 10 Admit 2 tickets to a preview screening on the 29th, so you'll get to see it before anyone else in Greater Brisbane. To enter, go to the relevant post on the Brisbane Channel's Instagram, make sure you're following, like the post and tag a friend in your comment. This one looks hilarious, so I really recommend you check out the trailer for the movie, which I've linked in the video description. Don't forget there'll be extra updates on the posts tab of this channel here on YouTube and on the Brisbane Channel's Instagram. And if you haven't watched this video yet, I reckon you should make that the next step. See ya.